Oh, oh, Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Shri Chinmaya Yatishasya Gurum Vande Tapovanam Tam Himavad Vibhutim Vai Jnana Vairagya Rupinam Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Hari Om. So today we are doing the last verse of this most beautiful text. Shankaracharya ji, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji has composed a lot of stutis, a lot of texts, but there is none like this. Out of all his compositions in such a short text, he has covered the entire Upanishadic knowledge most beautifully with the beautiful poetry, the composition, the quality, the examples are unmatchable. So the main theme of this text is Sarvatma Bhava. And what is that? I am all. What that means is that there is one Brahman, one consciousness, which is the Atma of everybody, Sarvatma, and that is my Atma too. So I am not separate from that. That is my true nature. This body, mind, and intellect is an outfit that I am wearing, but in fact, I am of that nature of Brahman. So I am all. Everything is in me. That's what the first shloka tells. And then the second and third shloka talks about Ishvara, the Lord, and the oneness. And then this Lord is described as Sat, Chit, existence, consciousness, and all the wrong ideas are disproved. And also it is shown that this same consciousness was there earlier and is there now, what is called Pratyabhijna. What I had seen years back, I now also I can recollect. So that same I is there in all. And that same consciousness has supported me throughout childhood, youth, middle age, old age. That one consciousness is there, and that is my true nature. And even when I am ignorant, even when I did not know this, I still don't know it. I have just intellectually understood it. But even an absolutely ignorant person is also Dakshinamurti. It is also that same Lord. Even it is there in a sinner, in everybody, that one consciousness is pervading. And last week we had seen how this eightfold Ashtamurti of this universe is nothing but Dakshinamurti Bhagwan, earth, space, fire, water, and air, and mind, intellect, and ego, or sun, moon, and ego. So in this shloka, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji is telling us what is the benefit. Why should we study this knowledge? What do we get from this knowledge? And the most important message we get is Sarvatma Bhava. So we'll talk about that. Sarvatmatvamiti sfuti kritamidam.
Sarvatmatvamati sifitu kritam adi.
Yasmadamushmin stave.
Jasmanam mushmanim satve.
Tenasya shravanat tadarthamananat.
Tenasya sharvanat tadarthaman.
Jnanacha sankirtanat.
Jnanat cha sankirtanat.
Sarvatmatva mahavibhuti sahitam.
Sarvatmatvaha mahavibhuti sahitinam.
Sadishwaratvam swataha.
Syadishavaratam swataha.
Siddhe tatanurashtada parinatam.
Sadidhe tat punar
Anurashtada parinatam. Chaishwaryam avyahritam.
Shashavaryam vrihahatam.
Okay, thank you. We'll all chant together. You can please mute. Sarvatmatvamiti sfuti kritamidam. Yasmadamushmin stave. Tenasya shravanat tadarthamananat. Dhyanatcha sankirtanat. Sarvatmatva mahavibhuti sahitam. Syadishwaratvam swataha. Siddhe taptanurashtadha parinatam. Chaishwaryam avyahritam. Chaishwaryam avyahritam. So Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji says the main theme of this text is Sarvatmatvam. That is the bhava, Sarvatma bhava. So we'll talk about it. Sarvatvam iti. This knowledge, sfuti kritam, it has been made very clear. Sfutik means very clear. That's why the crystal, like a crystal clear. Idam, this knowledge, in this way, in this stava. And so in this Ushmin stave, in this stuti, this knowledge has been made crystal clear that there is one consciousness alone, and that is me. And by knowing this, tena asya, therefore, of this, what should we do? Shravanat, do the shravana. Artha mananat, think about the meaning. Dhyanat, dhyanat is contemplate and meditate upon it. But here Shankaracharya ji gives a fourth one, sankirtana. Shravana, manana, nidhi, dhyasan we know, but he also says sankirtanat. And what will happen? What is the benefit? Why should I do that? So he says, Sarvatmatvam mahavibhuti. You will have the great glory of knowing this oneness between me and Brahman, Jiva Brahma Aikyam. That you will know, Sahitam, and along with that, what will you get? Syat Ishwaratvam. You will get Ishwaratvam. You will become like Ishwara. Swatah, in yourself, you will discover that Ishwaratvam. And then what other siddhis you will get? People want to know, will I get any siddhis? After this, can I read people's mind? Can I fly? Can I walk on water? All these things, people say, oh, if I could go become invisible and go and find out. So Shankaracharya ji says, if you want those siddhis, those also you will get. Siddhi tat an ashtadha, 8 siddhis parinatam, completely will manifest in you, and Aishwaryam, and the highest glory. All this will come avyahitam, means without obstacle. Continuously you will have all three. You will have oneness, you will have Ishwaratvam, and you will have Ashta Siddhis. So we'll talk today about what oneness we have talked in the 9 shlokas, so I won't spend too much time on that. But mostly we'll talk about what is Ishwaratvam and what is this Ashta Siddhis. So as we said, this is the Phala Shruti. It is the benefit of, or what is the fruit, what is the result of this knowledge. And it is called a Stuti, Stotram. Just as, we do Rama Stuti, Sri Ramachandra Kripalu Bhajman, that beautiful that we listen from Guruji every Tuesday. So this is a Stuti of Dakshinamurti Bhagwan, of Dakshinamurti Bhagwan himself. And what does it say? Sarvatma. As we said, I am all. When I say I am all, it's not I, this body, mind, and intellect, but I, that consciousness. Yes. And I am Nirakar. I am without form. I am Nirguna. I have no qualities. I am Asanga. I am Avyaya. I am immortal. So all those understandings should come. The moment you say I, all of this should come. That I was never born, I will never perish, I am beyond birth and death, just as Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, and all the Upanishads explain that. And the goal of this text is to reveal that. And that is the goal of my life, to know and then to abide in this knowledge that I am that. He said, well, how about bhakti? How about karma yoga? How about, pranayam? How about doing yoga exercises? So the example they give is, suppose I want to go to Kailash, for a pilgrimage, or I want to go to maybe Ganga, the Stotram where Gangotri is there. And it involves a lot of walking. But before I can undertake the pilgrimage, I have to prepare myself. I have to first get in shape, exercise. Then I have to make sure I have vacation. I have to buy a ticket. I have to, pack all my belongings, get ready, and then take a plane, and then take a train, and then a bus. Finally, I reach the point like Manasarovar, from where now I have to hike. So all the preparatory means that I have taken, buying a ticket, flying, taking a train, are all that karma and bhakti and yoga and pranayam. They are all preparatory for this knowledge. That's why Bhagavan Shri Krishna says, Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. There is no greater purifier than knowledge. So knowledge is the ultimate goal. Everything else is preparation. Then Shankaracharya ji says Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Very briefly, we will cover that. Shravana is to know what is the essence of the teaching. When we sit with a teacher, our mind should not wander. I should be tuned with the teacher and not only know what the teacher has said, but what the teacher is indicating, the essence. Like people used to go to Gurudev's lecture, Swami Chinmayananda, and come back and say, oh, his jokes were wonderful. That's not the purpose. You're not going there to listen to jokes. You have to get the essence of what is being told. And that will happen if you have sadhan chatushtaya. Sadhan chatushtaya, everybody knows, vivek, vairagya, and all that. Once you have that and total shraddha in the Guru and in the Lord, then for a uttam adhikari, one who has this qualification of sadhan chatushtaya, shravana alone is enough. He doesn't need to do anything more. But people like us who are not endowed, then we need to do mananam. And what is mananam? That with logic, you repeatedly think about it. Because what will happen is you listen, and then when we go home, you'll say, how can I be Brahman? You know, Brahman is huge. He's all pervading. He's the Lord of the universe. I am nobody. I am living in this body. I am an ordinary jiva. I am a deha. I am this body. So these doubts will come. So repeated contemplation will remove these doubts, called mananam. And that is for the medium. For the one who has, even with that, does not get, then they say again and again, again and again, keep these ideas in your mind, sit and contemplate and repeat them to yourself, which we call as contemplation or meditation. So repeated thinking about it. And Patanjali Maharishi says, Nirantarena Dirgha Kale I Adar Bhava. So when you think about this knowledge, do it for a long period of time. Don't think 3 months I have been coming to lectures and nothing has happened. Dirgha Kale, for a long time and continuously, that should be the main thought, with love for this knowledge, that this is the knowledge I must have. So all those three are required: long time, continuous, and with love. And what will happen is this viparit bhavana will go away, that I am this body, I am not this consciousness. It is called arudha patit in Sanskrit, that having climbed on a horse, if you fall down, what is your condition? So similarly, you and I have been given this knowledge, we climb on it and then we fall down. So for that, this Nidhi Dhyasan, all the three are required, because it is lifetimes of ignorance. So it will take time. So we have to be patient. Then the fourth thing Shankaracharya ji says is Sankirtanat, which has not been told in other texts in so much detail. Sankirtanam means one is singing. So like, beautifully now we chanted these 10 shlokas that Niru just chanted. So that is one way, that is called singing. But more important, Sankirtana means sharing it with others. I have understood, now I should share it with others. That's why Bhagwan in the 9th chapter, he says, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridha vritaha. So having understood, then this person shares it and himself abides in that knowledge. So he or she should do that. So that is called Sankirtanam, means sharing with others. Then he says that you get the Sarvatmat Bhava Vibhuti, the highest glory you get. But along with that, you get Ishwaratvam. Ishwaratva means, does he become God? No. What they say is that he develops God-like qualities. Just as Bhagwan has Aishwarya, Shri, Yasha, Vairagya, all those, wonderful 6 qualities. So the Ishvara, of course, is the Lord of crores of cosmoses. But this individual who has understood and applied this knowledge becomes Ishvara in his area. That means people respect him, worship him like God. Like when Swamiji comes, how we do the Purna Kumbha and we do Aarti, we welcome them. So because they have become like Ishvara qualities. That's why we call them Maharaj. Like Tapovanji, we don't say Tapovanji, we say Tapovan Maharaj. In fact, Samartha Ramdas, who was Shivaji's guru, he says the true kings are these. Rest of us are bhikaris. We are beggars. The only true king is the one who has understood this knowledge. Baki rest of you are bhikaris because you are just begging. So that is the true wealth. That is the true glory. And that is what we all need to develop. So that is what it is said. That Ishwaratva means he develops divine qualities and he becomes like God. That's why Raman Maharishi ji, we don't say Raman Maharishi, we say Bhagwan Raman Maharishi, or we say Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji, which means God himself has manifested in these individuals. Like Jesus also said, he who had seen me had seen the Father in heaven. What it means is that the Father in heaven has manifested in me. Now, the rest of my talk, I will talk about the Ashta Siddhis. We say, yaar, kaam ki baat karo na. Tell me how I can get these Siddhis. I want to be able to do all these things. Ye baki theek hai. Ishwar and all, it's too high. And most people think like that. If I can get this knowledge, can I fly anywhere without a ticket? That is one of the first things. So we'll see how Hanumanji had these 8 qualities and what they mean. So Gurudev in his commentary also has listed them, but I'll explain a little bit more. One is anima. Anima means to become small like an atom. Mahima is to become big. Then Laghima is to become light like a feather. Garima is to become heavy. Prapti means to reach anywhere you want. Prakamya means to be able to change my form, even to become like light. Prakamya, so I can change my form. Ishitvam. Ishitvam means to create something out of anything. He says, yeah, that's very good. I should shake my hand and immediately a diamond ring should come out. That's what I want. And the 7th one is Vashitvam, where I can control anybody. Are yaar, that is what I want. I want to control my husband. He doesn't listen to me. So can you give me that one? So he says, yeah, all 8 siddhis you can get. But what happens is that what is the difference between a wise person and a yogi? See, a yogi may do a lot of tapas and get these siddhis, but then he does them to show off. I have this power, I can do that. And Gurudev says that once you show off these siddhis, then your ego develops and slowly you lose them when they are done for that purpose. Like Ravana, he had a lot of siddhis, but he used them for the wrong purpose. But a jnani, when he has these siddhis, when he gets them, he knows that they belong to an atma. They are not real. They belong to the world. Any siddhi, any thing that you get off the world has no value to him. So he says, siddhi hai to theek hai, nahi hai to theek hai. He does not try for siddhis. If they come, it is fine. If they don't come, he is still fine. It does not mean that all jnanis will have siddhis or everybody who has siddhi will have jnani. But the jnani is so firmly established in this knowledge that he does not give much importance to them. In fact, he does not even demonstrate them unless it is for the benefit of others. So let us see in Hanumanji's life, did he have those siddhis? Ashta siddhi, Navanidhi ke data, Asabar Deen, Janaki Mata blessed him. Think about it. Sukshma Rupa Dhari Siya hi Dikhava. He made himself tiny to show himself. So he had anima. Then Bhima Rupa Dhari Asura Samhare. Then he made himself huge when he had to fight the battle, with the Asuras. So Mahima he had, Anima he had, Mahima he had. Did he have Laghima? Yes, he could become so light that when he was burning Sri Lanka, he could jump from one palace to another one palace. And without disturbing, he actually burnt the whole fire. The whole Lanka was burnt because he had fire in his tail, Laghima. Then how did he demonstrate Garima? Garima he had it, but he demonstrated it in Mahabharata. Mahabharata occurred, of course, thousands of years after Ramayana, but Hanumanji is said to be Chiranjeevi. He always lives. Even today, when Ramayana Katha is done anywhere, he comes and sits. So in Mahabharata, there's a very interesting story. Some of you may have heard it, but it is said that Bhima, one of the Pandavas, was a great devotee of Hanumanji. He used to pray to Hanumanji and worship him all the time. But what happened was he became very arrogant about his strength, Bhima, that I am the strongest person on earth. Nobody can equal me. He could defeat everybody in wrestling. He could shake a tree, and drop the fruits like that. He was very powerful. So he developed little ego. So Hanumanji said, I need to fix this guy. So one time Bhima was walking alone on the path through the forest, and Hanumanji appeared in front of him like a very old monkey, and he was lying right in the path, and his tail was blocking the path where Bhima had to walk. So Bhima said, who is this monkey sitting in my path? He said, hey, monkey, move from here. Hanumanji said, I am so old, I can't move. He said, at least move your tail. It is blocking my way. He said, I am so old, I can't even move my tail. Can you please lift my tail, put it on one side and you can go? So Bhima said, okay. So he tried to lift the tail, and it is said that he struggled for hours. He could not move the tail even 1 inch, that much. So that means that garima, that weight he could create, make even one part of his body weigh tons. Then Prapti, he demonstrated when he flew, Lae Sajivan Lakhana Jiaye, Sri Raghubir Harashi Urla. So he could fly to the mountain, bring the whole mountain back. That is Prapti. Then Prakamya. Prakamya means he could change his form. So like we see in Ramayana, when he meets Ram and Lakshmanji and Ramchandraji Bhagwan, he becomes a Vipra. He becomes like a Brahmin. Or when he goes to meet Vibhishana, he changes his form to become a Brahmin. So the point is that all these 8 siddhis were there in him always, but he never showed off. When asked, he just said, I am Ramadut, I am a servant of God. And he only showed these siddhis when Ramachandra ke Kaja Savare, when I have to do Bhagwan's work, then and then alone. And only when they were required, he just didn't keep on bragging. So the point is that these siddhis he had in full, in complete, but then people say, well, okay, he had the siddhis, but mujhe kya fayda hoga isme? What am I going to get out of it? Okay, Hanumanji had it. Okay, they are siddhis, but how is it useful in the present time? You want to know, right? Now, what is the purpose of knowing all this Laghima, Mahima, Anima? You keep on talking about these, but what is the actual benefit and how we can apply this knowledge in my day-to-day life? See, we always say, okay, I am Brahman. You have explained that. Okay, you get all these qualities. You have explained that. But when I have to deal with my life's problems, how will this knowledge help us? So that is explained very beautifully. So he says these 8 siddhis can come to us, but in a modern way. I heard a couple of commentaries. So anima means to become small. So what does that mean? That when I have to do some job, and in that job, I need to become small. I need to work under somebody, and I'm given a small job. You need to clean this floor, or you need to do some paperwork, He said, no, I want to go on the stage and give speeches. He said, no, your job is sit in the back, write the speech, and somebody else will deliver it. He says, okay, if that is the job assigned to me, I have no problem. I will do it. So even a small job, this person is willing to do. He's ready to become small if it is for a higher purpose. In Hanumanji's life, there's another beautiful incident. When he was flying from from the southern tip of India to Sri Lanka. And he had various obstacles, different demons came. And one of the demoness was Surasa. Now, Surasa was actually a goddess. She was the mother of Nagas, but she was sent by the Devas to become a demoness to test Hanumanji, that is he worthwhile, that he can accomplish our work, because the Devtas wanted Ravana to be killed by Sri Ramchandraji. So they said Hanumanji may not even be a suitable candidate. So they sent Surasa. They said, go and test him. So Surasa said, you cannot cross me. So Hanumanji said, I'll become bigger and I'll go above you. As he became bigger and bigger and bigger, her mouth became bigger and bigger and bigger. And she said, I'm going to swallow you. And he would become bigger and she would become bigger. And this went on for a while. And then he said, what is the prestige issue in this? I'm making a prestige issue. I'm bigger or she is bigger. I'll become small. He becomes small, flies into her mouth and flies out before she closes. So uska become, his work was done, that I'm going to do Ramchandraji's work. And she had said that I will swallow you. So he even honored her wishes that she could swallow him, and he came out. So that is the glory of, that if an individual is told that this is your job, you are supposed to do this job, you don't say, "Arey, bada chota kaam hai, jhadu marna hai, or I have to clean the bathroom." No, if that is required, I am willing to do it. So that is called Anima. Then Mahima. Mahima means, suppose a big project comes and I am asked to lead it, suddenly out of somewhere. I don't say, I don't feel competent. No, if I have been asked to lead it by somebody, I must have the qualification. So the ability to step up and take any job without getting overwhelmed. Okay, the job is there. If Bhagwan has given me, if Gurudev has appointed me here, I must be qualified. So not that you don't prepare yourself, you put your effort, but you are ready to take up any job. Even the biggest job, I am ready to take up. So that at the same time, the ego should not be there. So I should remain humble, but be ready to take up any job. Then the third one is Laghima. Laghima means light. So what it means is that take things lightly. We get so serious about it. Arey, he said this, it is so bad, itna bura hua mere saath. No, be cool. There's a phrase, teenagers say, be cool. So take life coolly. You don't need to take life too seriously. Take it lightly. Take it as a joke, because life is ultimately, this is not my real home. This is not my main purpose. My main purpose of life is somebody higher. Oh, somebody insulted me. Somebody criticized me. Somebody didn't praise me, or they didn't invite me to their house for a party Friday night, even though I was home and she had my cell phone and she didn't. So we make big issues about small things. So lightly. Nahi bulaya, acha, Friday, I have more time to do sadhana. I have more time to study. I have more time to prepare more. So take things lightly. So that is called Laghima. Then the fourth siddhi is Garima. Garima means heavy. Heavy means that I become so heavy that nobody can shake me from my principles. I have certain principles in life. I have certain things that I decide to do. I shouldn't say, today is Saturday, it's okay, I don't need to get up in the morning. No, if I have decided to meditate 7 days a week, if I have decided to be honest, if I have decided to be, not cheat, and then all those things I should practice on my taxes, in my financial dealings. So the ability to be firm on the principles, and of course, the highest principle is to follow this teaching. So firmly abiding. That's why Dridha Nishchaya, Bhagavan says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yatatma Dridha Nishchaya, one whose mind is under his control and he has firm Nishchaya, firm determination. So that I have, that is called Garima. Then Prapti means willingness to go anywhere to accompany, to carry out my purpose. So that tomorrow I get posted somewhere, I shouldn't say I'm not going or I can't do it. Wherever I need to go, whatever job is assigned to me, I should be able to do that job and go wherever I am required and do whatever is required to fulfill my purpose. If I have been given a job, then Prapti means I fulfill that. Just as Hanumanji went and brought the mountain to save Lakshmanji. So whatever job I am assigned, I not only should do it, but I should be willing to find people whom I can assign the job. So to give the right job to the right person, that is also part of Prapti. That's why in Chanakya, it is said that find the right person for the job. Prakamya means the ability to change forms. Also, it means that, again, whatever form I am required, whatever purpose I am required, and Prakamya also means light. So I should be willing to share this knowledge with others. I should become a source of light and recognize the light within me. So light is two things. Light does not mean the light shining, but the light of knowledge. So this person has the light of knowledge. And that is called Prakamya. Then it is Ishitvam. Ishitvam means the ability to create. So we think, oh, it would be so nice if I could create a diamond necklace and all. But there are factories for that. Or if I could just create a car or a motorcycle, go and buy it. So Ishitvam does not mean that I create something out of nothing, because there are factories. You don't study Vedanta to create a diamond ring. You can just go buy it. The purpose of this is that if I'm asked to start a new company, I should be willing to do that. If I'm asked to do a new project, create something, so the creative force within me, that I can write poetry, or I can dance, or I can compose music, or I can do a play. So the ability to create, the creative force, which is God himself. They say God himself comes when we create something new. That's why when you hear a nice piece of music or listen to some good poetry, you feel Bhagwan's presence is there. Or when you listen to these Mahatmas talking, how they beautifully interpret these shlokas, we see Bhagwan. So that is called Ishitvam. Vashitvam means to control others. So they say, forget about controlling others. Just learn to control yourself.
Your mind.
That is the most important. We always say, I wish I could control so and so and so. You can't even control your own mind. You can't even control your own senses. My senses, they just go here and there. I pick up the phone and, for hours I'm on the phone, or I'm talking to somebody for useless things for a long period of time, talking about useless things. Swami Akhandanandji Maharaj, he was well known for this. If, they say when you go to a Mahatma, you go and talk, do charcha, Bhagavad Charcha, talk about God. But Akhandanandji Maharaj, lot of these, our Chinmaya Mission Swamijis have studied from him, and they talk about him. So it is said that if somebody came to him and started talking something which was not spiritual, he used to get bored very quickly. So he will call his disciple. He say, "Ye bade dur se aaya, inko jara chai pani do." Means he has come from far away. Take him to the kitchen, give him some chai and food. That means take him out of here, get rid of him. So that is what. So the true Vashitvam is learn to control your mind and direct it towards God. But when we are sitting in the temple, we think of everything except God, right? Who has worn what sari, who has come, who has not come to the temple, and whose jewelry is better. All those things, that's all we think about. So they say you should be able to control your mind and your senses. So I should only be looking at Bhagavan, or when I sit for meditation, my mind should be on God and God alone. So that is how we can apply these principles. If you look at vision, visionaries, Prapti, how people accomplish, you look at Ved Vyasji, how he could vision thousands of years ahead that people won't be able to memorize these Vedas. So he wrote them down, and he wrote the Puranas, and he wrote Mahabharata, and he organized the 4 Vedas, because he knew that people won't be. So he could envision thousands of years ahead what our condition will be now. We have trouble even memorizing one shloka, and those people used to memorize entire Vedas. That's why they were called Chaturvedi, Trivedi, Dvedi, because they could memorize whole Vedas. But we have problems. So Ved Vyasji, or look at Shankaracharya ji Bhagwan. He, to establish Vedic faith, he established 4 mathas in 4 corners of India in 32 years of life. He traveled through the whole of India, established these centers of excellence where this knowledge even today is taught. And of course, the greatest example we have is Puja Gurudev himself. He knew that people are not going to come to the Himalayas to get this knowledge as they used to. He said, I have to go down from the Himalayas to the plains to spread this knowledge. And then I have to teach it in English. He said, I do not want to restrict to one regional language, because then I can only talk to people of one state. So even with great opposition, he taught this knowledge in English, so that not only people in India, but throughout the world can study this knowledge. Then he established the schools, Vedanta schools where the students are taught, and Bal Vihar where the children. So you can see how these people have visionaries. That is called Prapti. That is called the ability to create Ishitvam. He could create a whole mission with all the ideas, with this one vision that I have to spread this knowledge. So that is what they say, that by study of this text, this beautiful text, most important is I should get the knowledge I am that. Tattvamasi. That is the most important. And along with that, the other divine qualities will come themselves. And siddhis, one should not have any interest in siddhis. I don't need siddhis. I have to make my goal clear to become one with that. And so here we end this beautiful text. And there is a very beautiful couple of shlokas at the end. Yasya, he says, one whose shraddha is in God, deve, yatha deve tatha gurau. So one who has as much faith in God, that much faith he should have in his guru. As much as you love God, that much respect you should have for your guru. Only then this knowledge will reveal itself. We say, like Kabir ji also says, when Guru and Govind both are in front of me, whom should I touch? God's feet first, or Guru? Touch Guru's feet first, because Guru only will take me to Govind. So here he says, Yatha deve tatha gurau. As much respect and reverence you have for Bhagwan, that much respect and reverence if you have for your guru, then only this Dakshina Murti, these 10 shlokas will reveal their meaning to you. And then Shureshwar Acharya ji, the Shankaracharya ji's prime student, also says that there is this light of knowledge, which we studied in the 4th shloka, the light of consciousness, which illumines all luminaries, the sun, the moon, the stars, the lightning, even the lamp, the bulb, everything is illumined by that one light of consciousness. May that light of consciousness reveal this truth to me and make me also enlightened. May I get enlightened means may I clearly have this knowledge. So that is our prayer, that, that first of all, we express gratitude to Bhagwan Dakshinamurti Bhagwan, Shankaracharya ji and Puja Gurudev for giving us this knowledge. And then we take a pledge and resolve that I'm going to study this text again. I'm going to study it again, and I'm going to apply this knowledge in my life for the highest purpose, for the highest goal. So that is the benefit of this text. That is the purpose of this text. So before we end, we will just chant the first shloka. Neeru and I can just chant together. That means I pledge that I will study this again. It's not ke Dakshinamurti Stotram ho gaya. Nahi ho gaya. Abhi I have to read it again. So that is the purpose. So Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirivod Bhutam Yatha Nidraya Yas Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanameva Dvayam Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshina Murtaye. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I have studied this text before, but opportunity to share it, and I also had to study in more detail. So I'm supremely grateful to all of you for giving me this chance to share it. So I'm so blessed. I feel so thankful, to all of you and to Bhagwan and to Puja Gurudev for this knowledge. So thank you very much. We have a few minutes if there's any question.
We are also very thankful to you for explaining it so nicely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very beautifully done. And I hope we can work on it slowly and slowly.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you.
Especially taking the time to tell us all these things.
No, it's a joy. It's a pleasure. It's not a burden at all. I really enjoy, because there is no better thing to do than to study this text and share it. That's what Sankirtanat, that is. So
it gives us clarity.
Yeah, it gives me clarity, because if I have to study it in so much detail, so it helps me more than it helps anybody else. So I feel thankful to.
Loud mananam.
Yeah, this is loud mananam, preparing is loud mananam. So
speaking about it.
And then, I have to read it 2-3 times. So, it makes it clearer for me also. So thank you.
If anybody has any questions.
Any question? Anything? Any doubts? Lata, no? Today, no? Nothing?
I don't have any questions, but I love you brought up the Kailash vision picture in my mind. We have been on that Kailash Yatra, and those who have not been on that Kailash mountain, the snow always stays. And there is an outline of Lord Shiva with the Ganga coming down,
Right.
and he is looking down to the south, Dakshina. So I always, when I see that, when I envision that picture in my mind, it's always Dakshina Murti I'm thinking of, because that's Lord Shiva right there.
Right.
Facing Dakshina, south, over the whole India and into the Indian Ocean down south that way. Really beautifully done. I think I probably may have heard it before, bits and pieces here and there, but all these 10 shlokas that you did, very nice, very nice. I have to, as you said, reread it, re-study it.
We need to read it.
And then come up with a list of questions for you.
Right.
Thank you.
that website. So just go to First Power. If I think most of the shlokas are there, one or two we may have missed, but we have summarized. It has been summarized in the later shlokas. So all the knowledge is there, whatever I spoke. So if you want to listen again, please feel free to do that. Within a couple of days, he usually puts it on. So
Yes, yes, and I have listened to you in the past. Yes, I will do that again. All
And
10
from
shlokas.
next week, we'll be doing Ishavasya Upanishad.
yeah, we'll start Ishavasya Upanishad same time.
So same time, same 12:30 to 1:30. And if you don't have the books, we have it in our store, bookstore. Otherwise, you can get from Chinmaya publication also.
Yeah. So you can meet Neeru on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. She will be there if somebody wants the copy of Ishavasya Upanishad. It's a very, very beautiful Upanishad where it's kind of, it's a one Upanishad. If you want to start study, this is the best one. Very, very simply, this truth has been explained. I'll try my best to prepare. I have never taught Upanishad. I don't know how why I get put on all these situations, but maybe Bhagwan will help.
Only you said that whatever job
It's
is
a very
done,
good
you
job.
will take it. So do it.
Yeah, I'll try my best.
Surprise us.
Yeah, I'll try whatever I can do. So we'll see. I mean, then Neeru has some other commentaries, so I listen to those, and that's how we prepare. So
Is it possible to send it to Jagruti? She wants to attend this Ishavasya.
Ishavasya, the text, I'll mail it to her. Okay,
Thank
she
you.
said that.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll mail it to her maybe in a day or so.
okay.
There's still a week, so she will get it. I'll try to mail it by tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
Today itself, this afternoon, actually we have time. Okay.
Thank you.
What will be the Vedic chanting on that day?
I think Vedic chanting will be Taittiriya Upanishad, right?
Taittiriya
Taittiriya Upanishad.
Okay.
But maybe later on we can ask her to do Ishavasya. If she,
Jai Shri.
Jai
I
Shri.
don't know if.
But right now she is doing Taittiriya Upanishad. So that is
Okay.
I think the one shloka many people would have heard, Ishavasya Midam
Midagam Sarvam,
Jagantyan Jagatena Tyaktena Bunjita Magrida Kasya Svidhanam. You know, that's a very, very famous,
Yeah.
even
Mahatma-
my ashram bhajanavali.
right.
It
Oh, it
starts
has that?
with it starts with that first one.
Because this whole
But-
universe.
But
is
doesn't
everywhere.
have the whole Upanishad in it, right?
No, it does not. It's in Nitya Patha, the first sloka
Right. Right.
is that one. Hari Om Ishavasya Midam Sarvam Sat.
Midagam Sarvam. Yeah, that was Mahatma Gandhiji's favorite.
Yes, yes. He has a essence of all Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, some of them.
Right.
And the next one is Prata Smarami Riddhi Sanspurada Atma Tattvam.
Right. Right.
Okay, I was Sankirtanam. I know you say the sharing this knowledge and abiding in it is important. Kirtanam
Means singing.
literally means the
Singing the
singing,
glory.
and that
Right.
does help also, I feel.
Right.
That brings in the bhava, this devotion,
Yes.
with the beautiful words that are there, the lyrics that are there, and the leader who leads it, like what Neeru did today. Jai Shri does it for us other days. It really brings in that bhava into this.
Right.
Would you say that?
Absolutely. I think if you can sing it and chant it, that's very good. Because even just singing or chanting without knowing the meaning has
It's
some benefit.
to the brain.
But if you know the meaning and chant, then the benefit is even more. But
Mm.
yeah, no, just singing, that's why when you sing bhajans or when you do this Vedic chanting,
The
12
mind
to
becomes
12:30, the
quiet.
mind becomes quiet, becomes pure. And the vibrations of this energy of chanting, whether it's Bhagavad Gita or Upanishads or Vedic chanting, it improves the vibrational level of your mind's energy also. So it is very beneficial, and for your home, for the circumstances.
Purification of mind.
Yeah, purification of mind, and also then the mind becomes ready for knowledge. And if you, once you keep on singing, then you want to know what is the meaning of this that I'm chanting. And
Right.
that's when you go to a guru and ask. So that is why. But no, Vedic chanting is very good for the environment, also for the energy local. Yeah.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
I had a question. Like this whole classes I'm joining for the last few months. This is all new for me, and I am really liking it. I am not able to grasp in a deeper manner, but I got very interested, and I just like to, I am gaining a lot of things, but I'm not at the stage where I can do the discussions. Like, what I'm just trying to find out, like, if you are living in an environment in general where nobody else kind of, thinks what you are doing is right, or, you should not be into these things, or don't say anything, but they are not into these things. How can one help them to come around and at least start thinking about these things?
Yeah, I think
how, without getting into arguments or getting into, but at the same time, how to calm others around you. I don't know if I'm asking the right question. Did my information is right or?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. First of all, we cannot change anybody else. I can only change myself. So if I think that I will change anybody else, then that is wrong. So what I do is, by this knowledge, as the more and more we are listening to this knowledge, the more and more the knowledge becomes firm, becomes pakka in our mind. And then slowly it affects my behavior, where I become more calm, I become less disturbed by situations, by circumstances. So my goal should be very clear that I'm going to get this knowledge. Once I have decided, then that should be my clear goal. Like Mirabai. Mirabai had so many obstacles, including her father-in-law, her husband, they shut down the temple, but she did not. So not that one should fight with others, but just softly, politely say, this is important and I will do it. And what will happen is that when you are studying this knowledge, there will be a subtle change in you, in all of us. This knowledge has to make a change because it is coming from Bhagwan himself. So the more I immerse, it's like you immerse yourself in water. You can't come out and say, I didn't get wet. Gila to hona hai. So same way, when you immerse yourself in this knowledge, the knowledge will have its effect. And others, when they see that you have changed or how much you are benefiting from this knowledge, they may take interest in it. And if they don't, then you just pray to Bhagwan and say, it's not their time, because you need Bhagwan's grace. Like now you were informed of this knowledge. You are in Toronto, right? But you are still logging in, thanks to Moini Aunty. So it was meant to happen. Bhagwan's grace was on all of us that we are able to study and discuss. So you just keep doing it. If somebody does it with you, fine. If they are doing parties and going everywhere, you say, but this is my important, I have to do this. And nicely, politely, but clearly I should make it clear that this is important for me. And try as much as possible not to make other programs when you need to listen to this knowledge. And then slowly it will have an effect, because you'll become calmer, you'll become softer, you'll become gentle, you'll become less reactive. See, what happens is somebody says something, I react, and then that person reacts.
Once you know who you are, then that will...
Yes. So slowly there will be a change. There is no doubt. Right now we have this grooves of this, that I am this body, I am this individual. But slowly this groove that will come, that Bhagwan is with me at all times and he is working through me. Then there will be a slow change in my attitude towards the world. And when that happens, then circumstances will change. That's what Gandhiji said, "Na, be the change that you want to see in the world. If you want the world to change, you change yourself first." I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it did. It's just sometimes this kind of thing, I just feel that I'm changing, and I do feel that I change in me. But sometimes some kind of action, from others make me trip. Like I just kind of, and then I feel bad about it. Like, I say, oh my God, what did I do? I should not be reacting, or I should not listen. I should let them say, and not to tell them to do what I think is right for, But as I said, then I trip sometimes. But I was just wondering, like, how to bring them around to think, at least try this path.
Yeah, I think it's all you do is yourself, you show that it is important. And then if they do it, that is fine. If they don't do it, then it's their luck. Unki kismat hai. That's all. You just pray to Bhagwan that inko buddhi do. That's all you can do. You can't change anybody else. You can only change yourself. And you can share it. Suppose sometimes somebody asks, what did you hear? You can do that, or leave the book lying around and just say, okay, this is the book I'm reading, like Bhagavad Gita or Dakshinamurti. And maybe that person around maybe open the pages and look, or may share it, but if not, nothing you can do. You can't really help others.
Yeah, okay.
Or sing a bhajan, and before you know it, they will start singing too.
Yes.
That happens.
Right.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, Carrie.
I just want to say that my whole family are atheists, period. And they do nothing but make fun of anyone of any religion, of any spiritual message.
Right.
And over time, over the years I've just continued reading and being interested in this. Slowly now, once in a while, they say, well, what do you see in that? And I said, well, and I kind of try to explain a little bit. And they don't, they're not really interested in doing it themselves. But I have been told by members of my family that I'm a different person.
Or they will start praying for you, or that you are possessed by the devil, things like that, they will say, right?
Well, no, they don't believe in devils. They don't.
No,
believe
but
in
sometimes these people will start praying for you that, oh, you are on the wrong path, and you're going away or whatever. Yeah.
It's just, they see that somebody that they know is interested, so they realize that there must be something in it, and just that alone, they realize that there is something.
Yeah, no, this knowledge will help. There is absolutely no doubt. It is zero doubt. That's what Gurudev said. It's a one-way street, entry only. Once you get into it, you can't get out, because you get so fascinated by this knowledge. And okay, we'll do the closing prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you very much. Hari Om. See you next Tuesday.